to MAHA Moms podcast. I'm Dr. Lisa, and Christine Kennedy is with me. And we also have a guest, Vanessa. We just had her on, so this is going to be our part two. We're so into her story, and I hope you are too. We want to hear the things she did to help reverse her mast cell and some of the crazy, crazy health issues she was going through. So welcome, Vanessa, again, and let's just continue our story. We left off on, I'm just so into this. We're talking about getting outside. Sounds really simple, but this got really good. Getting into the sun in the morning sun. And this was really one of the big things was red light. And then we were talking about red light versus blue light. And then we got into sunscreen and sunglasses and all this amazing stuff. So if you missed our part one, go back and listen to it.
Grounding.
Please, you can hear her story and you can hear where we left off. But welcome, Vanessa, again, and let's hear some more.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me on. It was so fun chatting with you guys. I'm so excited to chat again. So
yes,
yeah,
you're welcome back anytime.
Oh, awesome. So, thank you.
Christine, you just asked her when we paused a good question about the red light. You were like, Vanessa, you showed us a red light that lamp that you have right there at the desk, and then we were talking about the screens and the blue light. So let's go back to that a little bit because I think our listeners will love this.
Yes. Yeah. So you want to mitigate blue light all the time from your environment. Artificial blue light, blue light from the sun, good. Blue light from artificial sources, not good. Just think of it such as screens, such as LEDs, such as fluorescents, such as TV screens, any like Walmart, like your phone, like anything like that. So you want to mitigate those as much as you can because they actually damage your mitochondria health. Let's just keep it simple like that. That's what they're doing. They're actually damaging your mitochondria and they actually deplete your dopamine. They deplete vitamin A in your body. There's a lot of negative side effects of blue light.
And now I have to say, I have to pause. I do a lot of vitamin testing, and when you're on Instagram, they're all like magnesium, magnesium. I don't even see that deficiency. What I always see A. I always see A. They never talk about.
Oh, that would be blue light toxicity, 100%. And in fact, I'll share a little story of mine. Is two hallmarks of vitamin A issues are night blindness and those like skin things you have in the back of your arm. Like you have those like prickly skin. I have both of those, and then when I switch my light environment, they're both gone. I don't have either one of those problems anymore.
Wow.
So how do we switch our light environment?
Yeah, so you want to mitigate your blue light out of your life as much as you possibly can. So well, let's start in the morning. So before sunrise, you want to wear an orange tone pair of blue blockers, okay? Because if you're going to look at your phone or if you're going to look at, turn on lights, you want to have orange tone blue blockers to mitigate at least the impact in your eye. Now you have blue light receptors and melanopsin receptors on your skin as well. So if you can have incandescent bulbs in your house, or you can have orange bulbs or red bulbs, you want to mimic nature. So if there's no sun really rising yet, you want to keep the house dim. I always say, get outside before looking at your phone if you can, but I understand some people have to. So there's a little filter you can do by just switching to make your phone screen red. It's very simple on iPhone. You just can look it up right on YouTube and it will show you how to change the filter to make your phone screen red. It's literally like a simple 3 clicks and my phone will go blue to red really easily. I just keep it on red all the time. So my phone is always on red, but I still wear my blue blockers. Like in the morning, I would throw these on if I had to look at my phone before the sun because it's mitigating it more and it's mitigating the flicker. Then after, like throughout the day, like if you have to work and you have to be on screens, you'd want to either wear a yellow tone pair of blue blockers, or you'd want to mitigate the screens by keeping them red. So you can keep your phone screen red, or you can actually use like Iris software, which is a technology. It's $15. Everybody should have it, and it mitigates the screen. So it changes the screen color or lowers the screen color temperature to this red color, or you can make it orange, but I prefer the red. So I just keep mine on red all day long. That's a good source. And then, of course, you want to get outside as much as you possibly can and get light breaks. I open my window because light moves in a wave and a particle, so you can actually get some of that information just by doing that. And again, using incandescent bulbs in your house or red light, infrared in your house to try to support that throughout the day. But nature is the best. You want to get outside as much as you can throughout the day and get that sunlight input into your skin and on your eyes as much as you can. At night, when the sun sets, this is the biggest, most crucial step, really. Because this is when blue light's harmful artificially all the time, but it's most harmful at night. I just want to back up one thing before I go back to the sunset. If you go to
We
like,
probably do a lot of blue light at night, right? We're watching TVs, we're on our
oh
phones.
my goodness, yes. But I was going to say, if you go to like Walmart or Target, or if you're in an office, I would recommend even during the day wearing yellow tone blue blockers, because it's just so, so sharp. And so the incorrect, it's like an alien light frequency, basically. It's the incorrect light frequency. So yeah, most people, when they get home at night, what are they doing? They're throwing on all the LEDs, they're watching TV, they're, doing all of that, right? They're on their phone, they're working on their computer, right? All of this. And whenever your body tells time, light is the number one Zeitgeber. And your body tells time based off of blue light in your environment. So when blue light is up, it's meant to do certain things. And when blue light is gone, it's meant to do certain things, right? So blue light in your environment after sunset will rapidly deplete your melatonin. And your melatonin is your body's major built-in natural antioxidant that controls autophagy, apoptosis, and mitophagy. Those are big words. That means cellular repair, cellular cell death, which is like cleaning up dead cancer cells out of your body, right?
Not a bad thing. It can be, but it's
Right, right. But you need it to happen, because if you don't have this happen every day, it's like you never run your dishwasher, you never clean out the junk in your trunk, right? And then there's also mitophagy, which is cleaning damaged mitochondria. Like you want to clean and repair every night. So melatonin's job is to come in. It's like this scavenger. It's cleaning everything up for us every night. So, but blue light, detected from our eyes and our skin, rapidly depletes it. So if you are on your screens, if you're on devices, if you're, got all your LEDs on, you're suppressing your body's natural production of melatonin. And then what happens is melatonin, to be released from the pineal gland, there's two kinds of melatonin, but this is pineal gland melatonin. And to be released from the pineal gland needs 4 hours of darkness. So say you don't get into darkness until 10 or 11 o'clock at night, which is what most people do, right? It's what I did back in the day. You literally are not going to have that melatonin peaking or secreting until 4 hours later, and you're not getting the full rejuvenation and healing. You do that day after day after day after day, this is going to be an impetus to setting in for chronic disease. Like your body needs that every night.
can't they just take melatonin before bed?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Right? Like that's people like, well, I'll just take it. I'm like, okay, now you're
Yeah.
right. Now we're just treating a symptom instead of getting our bodies to do it themselves, right?
Well, first of all, I would say, and this is huge. This is like people are being, I was prescribed high dose melatonin, and
Right.
nobody ever told me to change my light environment. I was prescribed tryptophan. Nobody ever told me to change my light environment. But changing my light environment is what fixed my chronic insomnia, not the melatonin. Changing my light environment is what helped heal my chronic debilitating pain and depression, not taking melatonin supplements. So I want to just make that clear, number one. And number two is, you again, you're just masking a symptom, even if you are, right? Even if it does help, you're just masking it. But you actually down regulate your body's natural melatonin production if you continue to take it, number one. So now your body, your body can make this all on its own if it's given the right input. So instead of trying to, just cover up your unhealthy lifestyle, you gotta do the right things to take care of your health so you can internally make it. And actually, we didn't talk about this before, but melatonin is made in UVA light. So you also need UVA sunlight to activate or replenish your melatonin stores, because when you're in UVA sunlight, you activate aromatic amino acids that are waiting to capture photons of light, and that's like a stimulus for that that aromatic amino acid to be changed. So tryptophan becomes serotonin. And that serotonin that you made in UVA light is converted into melatonin later on at night for the pineal gland. See, serotonin, melatonin, they sound alike, right?
Yes.
This is the pathway. So we need light. We need light in the morning. We need light during the day, and we need darkness at night. And if we're going against nature of laws, you're going to run into problems. And that's just the truth of it. You're going to run into health problems. If you think about my lifestyle when I got sick, I stayed up till midnight with bright lights and phones and all the things. And then I got up at 5 a.m. How much repair do you think really happened at that time? Literally zero. Literally zero. There's not enough time for the body to get all the healing work it needs to do. So we want to preserve our melatonin as much as we can. And that also activates the sympathetic nervous system. It also raises blood sugar without even the consumption of food, having artificial light in your environment at night, because there's this POMC pathway. That's a long conversation, but basically you're activating cortisol and you're activating blood sugar and you're keeping your body in more of this sympathetic state. So blocking artificial light at night is like a non-negotiable for all my clients that I have them do, because it's just so imperative for health and healing. So I wear orange tone blue blockers as soon as the sun sets. And I don't even have artificial light in my house. I do it because everybody else does, because the street lamps are shining it in, because the car lamps and everything else is shining it in through the windows. So I'm always blocking it. And then I wear red an hour before bed, which is really helpful as well, because when I was as sick as I was, which we were talking about in the last episode, my first pair of blue blockers were red, and those really block. They block the blue and the green, because green can also be stimulatory, and also our nervous system can still be activated from green. And that had me like passing it. And I'm telling you, I had literally the most chronic debilitating insomnia you can imagine. Like I was up all night with palpitations and pain. And I was like, all I had to do was just put on some blue blockers and I would be able to sleep and go out and see the sunrise. It's like, it's so mind blowing. And then, of course, my pain was lessening, like I said, and my depression was lessening, like I said. I mean, sunlight also is really good, like UVA particularly is really good for anybody, excuse me, who has depression or anxiety, because it helps, helps us with beta endorphins, which reduces pain, but it also helps us with making serotonin and dopamine, which boost our mood and feel better. We're actually meant to be addicted to sunlight. That's why we release beta endorphins when we're in sunlight, because we're meant to come back to that stimulus. It's like nature tells us that what we're supposed to do.
You're making me think too of the kids. Like I have 3 boys, you have 3 boys. Christine's got a son. And not to leave the girls out, but we have boys and they love video games. At least, one of mine does still. I have a computer geek, and he might be listening, but he did finally get some of the glasses, and we're starting with this because
that's so great.
Works on the computer all day, and then some of their downtime with their friends is being on the video games. It's so much blue light. And I just want to bring that up for people who have younger kids. I know that they get their homework done and they got everything done. You're a teacher, right? It's like, oh, all right, let them be on the video games. And that's how they socialize today. They don't go outside and play like the things we were doing, climbing trees and, I don't know, some crazy,
I know it's
in the neighborhood.
Really heartbreaking. It really is heartbreaking. And I don't think I don't fight the same battles with my own kids. And I teach them all these things. And they know the blue light suppresses their melatonin. And they know that it depletes their exclusion zone water and their mitochondria. And they know that it's not good for them, as much as I harp on it. But it's like, it's hard because that is their social connection and their network. That's what makes it the more challenging thing. So, I mean, there are things that we can do, like giving them blue blockers. And there are things we can do, like putting in like red bulb.
Right?
What'd you say? You said change their screen color, too. Put a red bulb in their room, put incandescent light bulbs in their home, open their windows. Like I go in this morning, I wake my son up at 7 a.m. The sun is just coming out and he's got a beautiful view of the sunrise. I'm just like, open the window. Good morning, Brendan. Here's the sunrise light. Like, so like
that's the question I had. Does it have to be the sun have to be coming directly through the window, like the rays?
This is a really great question, because people think that we can just get our sunlight through a window. And I wish that was true, but unfortunately our modern glass blocks infrared and UV light, because it wants to make, we have to make everything energy efficient, right? We don't want to let the infrared in, because infrared our body perceives as heat. So to make it energy efficient, we've blocked it. So you cannot get it through a closed window. You have to open the window. I mean, the light brightness will still be helpful for you in a way, but it won't give you the correct signals. So you really want to open the window. So I opened his window, and he actually has no screen because I don't know what happened to it, but he has no screen. Go ahead.
We got to work that out.
But
But if the sun isn't, okay, say my window's down and the sun isn't directly hitting me, it still has beneficial?
Yes. Light moves in a wave and a particle. So I have an open window back there. You can't see it, but I opened the window back there, and it's still coming in. It floods your environment. So if you can even open your windows in a crack, so say for example, you're driving, right? If you can open your windows even a little bit, it's beneficial, because unfortunately, this is another conversation, but when you're in a car, you're basically in like a Faraday cage, like surrounded by all the non-native EMFs that we have there that are the incorrect frequencies for our biology. And you're getting like, because of the filtration of the windows, you're getting like an alien sun also. So that's actually like not the best space to be in. So you want to open up your windows to allow the non-native EMFs to be kind of released from the space, and also to allow the correct light frequencies in. So yeah, you want to definitely
And use your sunroof if you have one.
oh my God, I wish I had one. Yes, but yes,
We
I
need
never
a-
use
my
mine,
next
but now I'm
car will
going
have
to.
We need a convertible.
I don't want a new car because my car like is one of those, it doesn't have like all the, I mean, it has Wi-Fi, but I haven't turned off. But like sometimes you can't turn off Wi-Fi in cars and things like that. And like I can use my music with a cord. I don't have to use Bluetooth. Like I'm like, oh, I don't want a new one with all this
Yeah.
technology. Like, you know, just put a sunroof in that car.
So this is so awesome. Let's move to another thing. What's tell us another thing that your next step to that you helped Drew repair, heal.
Yeah. Well, I
Restore.
guess I would say I definitely did in like more ancestral seasonal local diet for sure. Very got into like really, really clean eating, all whole foods and what was seasonal local, and you know, got from regenerative farmers, all of that. So I started doing a lot of that. I actually started turning Wi-Fi off at night. That was huge. That was a really big help for me in improving my sleep and my pain as well. So that's
What
something
did your
simple that,
family have to say about that, though?
oh, that
Did you
was
shut
such
all
a,
theirs off too?
yeah, because when Wi-Fi goes off, it goes off. Like it was a kill switch, basically. Like you can get a kill switch like right at Home Depot, and it just off, buttons off. And it was great because then they couldn't play their video games and things like that. They had no choice because everything was gone, right?
Parents turned out like, what? Oh my
Yeah,
God.
get a Wi-Fi kill switch. One time, well, this is a story. I shouldn't share this one, but one time they hid their remote on me because they were,
I would do
they
that.
were annoyed, you know. But anyway, so yeah, we made a rule. It went off at 10 p.m. That's a very, 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 very kind and reasonable, I
Oh,
thought.
that's fair.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, I have teenagers, but yeah, I was like, that's very reasonable. So, and it would go off, and that was it. And yeah, nobody could use any internet. And it's like it just quiets all the noise because Wi-Fi also really upregulates the nervous system as well. It's activating cortisol as well. So, and it's just a form of light that you can't see. So it actually is very harmful. And your body, as much as we like all these modern conveniences, if we could just tone down at night not having it, that's huge because you're like taking away like 50% of that, right? So I always recommend for clients to do that. And then I started mitigating non-native EMFs in my home like as well. So I started like unplugging everything in my bedroom, and then I went up switching our home to Ethernet. So all that means is now we don't actually even have Wi-Fi. We have cabled Ethernet. So there's a line that's, I'm like talking to you through cabled internet right now, just like we used to have. Like all Wi-Fi means is wireless internet. It's moving through the ether, right? It's moving through the air. I got rid of our smart meter. And of course, everybody around my neighborhood has Wi-Fi, so I'm not completely mitigating it. But the more earthing and grounding you can do, the more you release some of that static energy of the Wi-Fi. So like you're bouncing it back and forth between the earth and yourself. So you're like releasing some of that. So that's good too. So that was really helpful. And then about a year and a half after I was doing all these things and feeling much better, pain was better, depression better, moods more stable, energy better, sleep better, all these things are better. I still was dealing with the bladder stuff. I was like, well, this sucks. Like I'm still dealing with bladder problems. And actually I had this like horrific symptom. It was like itchy bladder, like a yeast infection in the bladder, like an itch you can't scratch, like just so unpleasant. And I was like, well, I'm not getting antibiotics. I'm not getting an antifungal. I've got to like find some other things to figure this out, like what I can do. And one of the podcasts that I was listening to was someone who was very into circadian biology and teaching all of the things that I was learning about in quantum biology. And I was like, you know what? She's also talking about this thing, homeopathy, which I have no idea what that is or what it means, but she's always talking about this. Like, why not go have a session with her and see what she can do? And I wound up having a session with her, and she wound up giving me my first remedy, and it cleared up the itchy bladder after an aggravation. I will say that there wasn't, I like to call them activations of the immune system. There was like a little bit of an activation of things that like my immune system getting stronger, my redox getting stronger, my body being able to remove things that are not serving it, right? And then I had this big amelioration and I was like, you just got rid of my itchy bladder? Like, how did you do that? Like, I have to know more. I have to tell everybody. Like, because
How long was how long was it ramped up for before it got better? I'm curious.
the aggravation.
Yeah.
So the aggravation of that was two really, really bad left-sided migraines that were like had me like almost intolerable because this was a very hormonal remedy also, the one that I took. And also I had one really awful night of the itchy bladder, like all night long. I was up with it and it just was like really intense. And I was like constantly peeing and it was just a really intense aggravation. But after that aggravation, I was better. So that was like within 2 weeks, I noticed it was better.
Oh, wow. Was that
So
long?
yeah, and that was a 1 m of the remedy. It was a high dose. And I needed that because my body needed that kick a little bit. So anyway, so then she was running a practitioner training and I was like, I have to join this practitioner training. I have to train with you. I have to learn this. I have to share this with all the people that I know. And I want to be a homeopath. Like I want to add this to my practice because I was already coaching people with all the lifestyle stuff that I'm teaching you guys now, but I'm like, I need to know more. And that's how I got into homeopathy. So yeah, and then I've of course taken a lot of remedies since then because we're treating different. I work in a very constitutional classical way, so it's one remedy at a time. So I'm like peeling back different layers of the onion to getting to the center of the onion, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to do it. I pretty
Yeah.
much, even though I'm learning practical, I just basically addressed everything by treating my acute situation. And
That's so
things went
huge.
away just like that. Like I didn't need to do protocols or anything.
The acutes are the healing. If you can get the right remedy in the acute, it's going to up level your health so
Yes.
much.
I
I
don't
just
get
had
sick
that
as much.
experience with a flu, and I hate to say names of remedies because then people are going to think, oh, it's the flu. I take Calcarb. No, actually,
Yeah.
it's very individualized, right? Because
Yeah.
homeopathy doesn't treat an individual. I mean, it doesn't treat a diagnosis or a symptom. It treats the person. So, but yeah, I just had that situation happen where I had an acute and I took the right remedy and there's an up leveling of my health right again. So every time you use homeopathy, even in acute situations, it just makes you stronger instead of weaker because it's actually building redox. It's building your vital force. It's resonating with your biofield and it's shifting the energy. It's an amazing modality.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what I was I was blown away by was your vital force is also your autonomic nervous system,
Yeah.
which I was like, wait a minute, now it all makes sense. And everything that we encounter, whether it's eating, drinking, watching, listening, injecting, whatever, it has an action. It either enhances or diminishes your vital force. And then suddenly everything just made sense to me. I was like,
I love that.
that
I
is
love
like,
that so much. It's so perfect.
it took me like 4 months to get to that class, that part of the class.
I
I
love
think it
it.
was Robin Murphy. That's another one I want to go deep diving in. Like I have his Materia Medica and his repertories, but it was one of the interviews that she did that I was like, how come nobody told me until now that your autonomic nervous system is your vital force? Like that's why mine's not working because I did so much to.
Well, but it takes time to rebuild that, and however long you were sick is however long, it's going to take that time to bring back too, so it takes time. It takes time.
Yeah.
It's like Vanessa said in our last podcast, right? There's a lot of like chiropractic is old and they actually tried to jail a lot of the first ones. Actually, they did.
Just like homeopaths.
Yeah,
Same thing
and
happened.
it's based on that whole principle that, your whole nervous system is the innate intelligence in the body. It knows how to heal itself. And so, yeah,
Absolutely.
they burn
Absolutely.
witches at the stakes. Like it is so true that they suppress so much of what, our ancestors knew.
Heliotherapy, chiropractic, naturopathy, acupuncture, homeopathy, all of these things used to be common practice. And we've lost the innate ancient wisdom, right, of these things that can be herbs or with herbalism. I mean, herbs are, I'm not against any of these things. I'm not like one-sided, homeopathy is the only thing. There are so many modalities that can be supportive and we've lost all that. And it's like, this is why we're stuck in the system is because we lost all this ancient wisdom because we don't even know that there's something else.
Yeah, they don't want anybody to know. They don't want the competition.
They don't want anybody to know that because then you don't need them.
I
haven't seen a regular doctor. I haven't seen my kids and myself have not seen a regular doctor in years because I just use homeopathy for them.
Yeah.
And of course, I'll use red light therapy when they have something going on too, right? I'll use other modalities too. I use herbs sometimes too. I know how to use these things. So I only support them with natural things. I mean, of course, if there is a time and a place, there's always nuance. I don't want people
Yeah.
to think that there's never nuance. There is a time and a place for medical intervention. My husband broke his clavicle. Okay, we're going to the emergency room to get that fixed up, but I'm
Yeah.
going to use remedies to support him through that also, which I did, and it helped his healing catapulted even faster, right? He didn't need to take as many pain meds because he was able to use high doses of arnica, right? There are things that we can do to avoid even in those situations or to support in those situations, right? But I don't want people to think that like there's no panacea, and sometimes we do need medical intervention. Like there are times that
Oh yeah.
it's needed. But that's the strength of that medicine, right? The strength of that medicine is emergency care, right?
Yeah.
Where the strength of what we do, chiropractic, homeopathy, functional medicine, naturopathy, all that is chronic care. And what are most people suffering with?
Yeah.
Chronic, right? That's what we need to be. That's what our world needs help in. And
Plus,
I
they also taught us that we all need antibiotics anytime we get an infection. Like
that is
when I learned
such
homeopathy,
a hard conversation
it
that
blew my
people
mind.
cannot get that when I try to talk to them, but they're like, how can homeopathy fix an infection? Like,
You got me.
can it really remove an infection? Like,
Yes.
the infection is not even the
Fear-based. It's fear. Antibiotic therapy is fear-based because it's like
right. It's all
afraid the
fear-based.
infection's going to kill me or hurt me or go deeper. And you're
Your
Yeah.
like, okay, but
yeah.
your
Your
body has
body is a self-healing machine.
yeah.
And I'm not even really like I don't really buy into germ theory. I'm very much terrain theory. I'm very much like your body's not against you. Everything your body produces is for a reason. Even those parasites people want to kill. I'm like, well, parasites actually eat deuterium, which is another conversation, or they eat heavy metals. Like there's not your body, everything that your body produces is for you. It's not against you. So stop looking at your body like it's against you and realize that it's trying to keep you healthy, safe, and alive. That's what it wants
Yeah.
to do. It doesn't want it's not against you. It's work with your body, and
And
that's why
trust your instincts too, because I think a lot of times we don't. And I would have still been laying out in the sun, enjoying it if my doctor didn't tell me not to. Like that was my instinct, was to be outside.
I'm so glad I'm so glad you trusted that you've gone back to that because your intuition has brought you back to that, I would say. But like
Yeah.
over time, like I said in the last episode, like those whispers were really important that I wasn't paying attention to. Like my body was like, no, no, those antidepressants are not for you. Or when the medical doctor said, oh, you have 3 herniated discs, that's another story we can go into. You have to have surgery. And I was like, no, no, that's not for me. I don't want to do that. Or when they told me that I needed to remove my bladder at 35 years old, I was like, that does not seem like the right thing to do. Like I have a strong indication that I'm going to need that bladder and I don't want to have a bag for the rest of my life. And I know people like I was in the mast cell groups. I was in the interstitial cystitis like Facebook groups and it's so doom and gloom and it's so negative and I feel so much for them because they're stuck in the system that's keeping them sick and not empowering them. But they would have that surgery where they remove their bladder and guess what? Guess what? They would
Still there.
still have the pain
Still there.
because the pain is not the bladder. The bladder is not the problem. It's an energy imbalance problem. It's a problem in the whole system. We cannot, everything in your body is connected. You are an open system, not a closed system. So just removing an organ is not the solution. We just think in the medical community, oh, this is a problem. We'll just remove it. You don't need it anymore. Just like with cancer, right? Okay, we're just going to remove the cancer. Well, guess what? Majority of the time it comes back
Oh,
because
and then they tell them they're cancer free. I go, when they tell me it comes back, they go, I got it again. I go, where'd you catch it from? They go, what do you mean? I go, where'd you get it from? Like because I don't believe that theory. Like, I can't stand it. It drives me up a wall where they're like, you're cancer free, blah 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 blah. And
yeah,
then it came back, and I'm just like,
it always will come back unless you
always had it. It's
yeah,
just
unless
off. Yeah.
it'll keep coming back unless you fix the root cause of
Yeah.
disease. And
But
I
then in that
honestly,
theory, like they're catching it from somewhere. Like it went
yeah.
away, but now it
Mhm.
came back. And I'm like, no, it's within you. It's from
Yes,
within.
it's within you. It's
I
within
have to
you.
say something because I get that all the time. And I'm like, no, it's
No, I love that. I love that. That's a good one. I'm going to use that one.
Yeah,
It's like,
because I have a lot of patients that when they're cancer free, you know, I'm so happy for them, don't get me wrong, but they don't want to do anything in the time where, you know, between after that, I'm like, all right, now you really need to work to change your lifestyle. You need to really clean up the fishbowl. You know, really need to do like things we're talking about. And they're like, why? I don't have cancer anymore. I'm like, oh my gosh. So when it comes back, did you think you caught it from the
to,
air? Like,
you have to build your redox. You have to build your resilience. You
continue,
have to
people,
make,
continue.
yeah, you have to make your body stronger so that you're not a weak host, so you're not susceptible anymore, right? Because that's why the parasites come back and the H. pylori comes back and the mold comes back and you have chronic infections because your body is not, it's still weak and susceptible because you haven't changed your lifestyle, just like we were saying before. That's the truth of it. You
I
have to
can't
do
believe
it.
that even then they don't want to change their lifestyle. That really is.
Sometimes it depends on the person, and sometimes I think there's a lot of emotional
Yeah,
impact of
usually
that.
cancer
Yeah.
is an emotional thing that
Oh, a
you
million
know,
percent. I
causing
don't
it
think
from an
there's,
emotional.
I personally don't think there's any disease that's not correlated to the mental emotional.
Yeah,
I
I
don't think
agree.
that's
I agree.
possible. I have never seen it. I have
I
never
agree.
seen it in my practice. Um, and I think there's two real root causes of diseases, and both of them are due to suppression. Suppression to the physical body through suppressive therapies like sticks and, you know, all the medications that we choose to engage with, and then suppression on the mental emotional plane. So suppress grief, suppress trauma, shocks, suppress anger, suppressed boundaries, you know, people pleasing. There's a big, very big correlation between cancer and people pleasing.
Yes.
Huge, huge, huge correlation there. And just being boundaryless and not being able to express anger. In fact, the miasmatic remedy, carcinosin, Christine,
That's what
if
I
you
was
learn
thinking of.
about that remedy, they are people pleasers, they are boundaryless, they can't get angry, they just kind of just they're pushovers, you know. And this, they're the kids who they, when you ask them how they were as a kid, they just did everything right. They never got in trouble. They would never had to, were told to do their homework, right? They just never went against the grain.
I'm so glad you're talking about this because it's true.
It is
I
true.
know a couple people that are like this, and I hope
Me,
that they hear this message.
Well, maybe you need a dose of carcinosin.
Yeah.
something. It's
I mean, that would
definitely
only
where my
take,
Hashimoto's came from. There's no doubt in my mind. And I
yeah.
have like a 3 centimeter goiter on my neck, but I just, as soon as I got it, I knew exactly what it was. And I changed my life after that.
Right, but
I'm
if
no
so, that
longer a people
awareness of,
pleaser. Trust me.
yeah, but that awareness of changing your lifestyle, that's huge because I always say homeopathy can push you in the direction that you need to go.
Yeah.
So it kind of like nudges or catalyzes the body to like see things. So maybe you're gonna like release a lot of grief that you've been holding, or you're actually gonna be finally the person who was a heel pleaser who can like really get angry. You're gonna be like, nope, not doing it. Sorry, I'm saying no now. Like, and I've seen that. Like you can, or like the battered wife who says, I'm leaving my husband now, right? Like it can push you on the mental emotional level to make those kinds of changes, right? Or the person who's type A and can't stop going and doing all the things like me can be like, oh, you got to slow the hell down, lady. Otherwise, you're going to crash and burn again and be in burnout, right? So it can help you navigate those kind of mental emotional things as well, which is, I don't know another medicine that does that. And that's why I think it's so powerful. And I have to bring this up because homeopathic remedies in the crude form, a lot of the substances are toxic, right? And you're like, oh, it's arsenicum, or it's mercury, or it's carcinosin, cancer, or it's, you know, metaurinum, the gonorrhea, or like there's all these things that are like apis, bee venom, lachesis, snake venom, right? But the thing about homeopathy is that it's just an energetic imprint of a substance from nature. It is not actually the substance, it's energy medicine. And that's why if you speak to someone in the conventional world, right, conventional doctors, they'll be like, oh, there's nothing here. According to the molecular structure, there's nothing here. But if we understand water and how water works and how water has consciousness, water hears everything that you say. And water has this amazing ability to pick up energy, frequency, and information. If you can understand that, and you could look at the work of Veda Austin, you could look at the work of Dr. Emoto, and you will understand that how that water actually holds that energy and information. That's how homeopathy works. So the magic in that medicine to me is that it removes all the toxicity and leaves only the curative power of the medicine. That's it. It's only the curative. And it only works if you have the right remedy. It only works if it resonates with your biofield because it uses the principle of like cures like. So for example, if somebody has, okay, so say for example, somebody has, they're really cold, they're really anxious, but they're hot, their head is hot, and they want to walk, they want to get open air on their face or their head. They have burning pains, they have diarrhea, they have vomiting, they are really anxious and desire company. These are all the symptoms of somebody who has arsenic poisoning, right? Or arsenic, they need the remedy arsenic amalgam in this case, right? So if we have somebody who has all those symptoms, right? Like in a flu, like a stomach virus or a parasite or something like that, right? Or a stomach virus, you give them arsenic amalgam because there is a resonance effect, there is an energetic match, right? It cures said symptoms. And I've seen that many times, and it's kind of amazing, right?
I
So,
wanted to ask you about that because this is a really hard concept for, I don't have a background in homeopathy, but I've used it with my children. And I told
awesome.
Christine I would just run to the health food store down the street. He'd have the symptoms and we would just go, Peter and I would just go through them and we would, you know, for both our kids, and we would just like look up the symptoms, get it very specific and treat. I used to use that. So I have experience, but I don't know it like you girls. But my
Yeah.
point is, keep it simple to me. Like if you have yeast, if you have candida, I'm giving them candida. So what is that? Like, why, like, I want to go into that a little bit deeper. Like, so, because people like, why are you giving candida if they have candida? I'm like, you're not actually giving them candida.
Because
But
it's like it's the magic of like cures like, which has
I
been
love,
around
I love
for.
what you're saying. Like, explain that. But
Yeah, I mean, it's just like cures like. It's just it's like you get, I've heard it's explained two ways. So it's this, like cures like has been around since Hippocrates' time. They've known it forever. And all of our medicines use the law of opposites. So say, for example, if you have diarrhea, you're going to take a binder to bind it up, right? If you have a constipation, you're going to take a laxative, right? To let it out, right? So that's opposites, right? So
that's
homeopathy,
medicine.
right?
Medicine.
That's regular allopathic medicine. Homeopathy works in the like of opposite law of similars, excuse me. So whatever it can cure, whatever it can cause is what it can cure, right? So they know what it can cause and cure by giving it. Actually, the homeopathic studies are done on real people, on their provings on real
Those
people.
poor people.
Yeah.
'Cause
Well, if you
they
take a
tested
healthy,
the gross form too, so they got really sick when they did it.
right. So they take the crude form of the substance so they can see what it would cause. So they gave it to healthy people, right? Without disease, and they would give them the crude form of, say, arsenic, and they would see what are the symptoms of arsenic, right? And then they know what it would cure. So, and I've also heard it explain, so that's how it works. So to me, it's like a resonance effect and it's like a nudge or a catalyst. So by giving your body's been like slacking, say, on healing what it needs to heal. So the body like you give that substance in the body, like it wakes it up, like it invigorates the energy, and the body like resonates and reacts or nudges the body to do the self-healing that it hasn't done. And I've also heard it explained like two similar diseases cannot exist in the body at the same time. So that's another way to describe it. So like another great one as example is apis, right? Which is made from the honeybee. So if you get a bee sting, right, what happens? It gets hot, it's burning, it's stinging, it's swelling, it's swollen, right? It's red. It feels better with cold and worse with heat. If you give the honey, like if you have rashes or hives and you give apis, you've actually you can cure those symptoms of that. It's really incredible. So yeah.
I
Yeah.
love it.
Mm-hmm.
There's
I know.
isopathy too, which is like the exact substance for the exact, like rust tox and poison ivy. They are exact. So they say that that's not as beneficial as if you pick something that has more of a similar like instead of the exact thing. So you would pick
Mm-hmm.
something else instead that was causing the itching and the rash and the whatever. But it's really incredible. If you have a materia medica and a repertory and just know just enough to get yourself into trouble, you can just find, I mean, that's what I did. I took the Gateway to Homeopathy classes, and it just taught me the basic principles. And it was just enough to like, just, I would look up the symptoms and I would be like, oh, there's all these listed, but the ones that are capitalized or the ones that are in italics or whatever are the ones that are more. So then you go into the materia medica and you look up each of those remedies. And under that, it says what all of the symptoms are for every body part in your body. So it will go through the head and the stomach and the rectum and the, you name it, the mind. And that's how you kind of just figure it out. I think there's two different people. There's people that want to learn homeopathy and they want to help their families that have chronic illness or whatever. And then there's people that don't have time and they don't want to be bothered and they'd rather just hire a homeopath. But
Yeah.
for
Either way,
me, it gave me tools that I didn't know were even available,
yeah.
because I use it all the time. My dogs, we haven't been to the vet, we haven't been to the doctor. My husband, who's like the biggest skeptic, he is like the biggest champion of like my efforts. And what happened was he had a clogged ear that was causing vertigo. This was in the beginning. And I have vertigo all the time. So I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. But he just had water in the ear from his shower, but it was like really driving him crazy. So I went to the store, I went and got Calimer. And I do want to talk about names. And I always want to say that it's not, it's not for me to tell people what to take, but for people to know what these different remedies do and that just what the possibilities are. So he had this clogged ear and I gave it to him and I was like, okay, check your watch. So he checks his watch and I said, tell me when it goes away. And 7 minutes, it totally drained. And I was like, no way. He's like,
it can be super fast acting in acute situations.
yes, that's it. Acute it's the chronics that can take weeks and
Chronics
months.
can take a little bit longer for it to work, or it to and it depends on the potency, it depends on the frequency. There's so many like ins and outs and nuances to talk about with homeopathy. But
And this was just a cell salt. This was like a little.
Cell salts are great. Cell salts can be amazing. I mean, I've seen them do amazing work, and I honestly think like everybody should have a homeopathy kit and at least know how to use like basic things in it, like like the basics. And it's like just for example, my husband. Let's see if you could get the remedy. He had his back twisted, and he was worse with motion, and he was really irritable, and he gets annoyed when I ask him questions. Do you know the remedy I gave him?
Well, worse with motion, I think Brionia.
Yeah. Brionia 200C. And it took a little while. It took the first day. I'm like, oh crap, is this working? Because this is more of a chronic issue for him because his back will just keep going out. And last time I gave Brionia, but I also needed Rhus tox as well because he became after Brionia, he needed Rhus tox, which follows well because then it was better with motion, right? But this time I wanted to wait it out and see what would happen. And like 3 or 4 days later, it's gone. And he's also so much less irritable. So that's what I'm saying.
Let me give you a little hint. The Nux vomica for the snoring also doubles as the attitude adjustments.
Right. Because it works not only on the physical, it connects the mental and emotional. And that's also what I love so much about homeopathy too, right? Yeah. It's bringing the full circle. It also, I think it works on the spiritual level too. Like it works on the whole, it's working on the whole system.
Especially if you're switching from the other to this. Like I feel so much more alive now. Like I was literally dead inside on 10 different medications every day, like especially Valium and Benadryl, hydroxyzine. Like I took
hydroxyzine. Oh, that was terrible.
It's the same as Benadryl, but I was taking it like 3 times a day, like because I just needed to get stable. It was horrible. But I do see how it could be spiritually changing too, because you're no longer suppressing and it just keeps bringing you to a higher level every time you use it.
Right. But that now you're expressing though. You know what I'm saying? Now, instead of being like the suppressed person, you are expressing yourself. Your true self comes back is the other thing that I would say.
Yes, I do. I feel like I've been reborn, honestly.
Yeah. Like I love that you said that because I totally feel that. Right. And I'll tell you another story about myself with homeopathy. I've taken a lot of remedies for chronic, my chronic issues, right, over the years, just trying to work on things because it's always peeling back layers. I mean, I can give you 2 stories, but my last one, not the last one, but the one I took that really made a really big impact for me was a remedy that's worse from sticks. It's specifically for that, right? They're worse from sticks. And I was like, okay, well, like it was indicated. I had a lot of symptomology of this remedy. So I took it. And I took it into 200C, and for 3 weeks, I felt really depressed, and I really had quite the aggravation of sleep issues as well. And then about 3 weeks later, I was like, I kind of feel like me again. And I literally did not feel like myself for like 2 years after that stick. Like I was living in somebody else's body. And I kind of felt it. I felt like like this whole depression thing was going to be gone forever. And I just felt like myself, my energy, me, like I felt like my happy self. And I was at my mom's house like a couple of weeks later, and she's like, "You're acting like Vanessa." I'm like, "I feel like
Aw.
Vanessa." And I was like, and then she saw it. Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, I don't know how else to describe that. It's
Was it
so,
Thuya?
no, it wasn't Thuya. I've never taken
Wasn't.
Thuya. I've never taken
You know
Thuya.
that that is for,
I
that is
know,
actually
I
for
know.
butter.
I'm just, it's not very, it hasn't been indicated, but I have not
Oh,
taken it.
that's right. You're doing,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm very like when it's time, it'll come to me kind of thinking.
Because I've been dealing with some interstitial cystitis bladder stuff. And
Did
I
you
was
take
like,
it?
wait a minute. I'm going to do that because it's also for vaccinosis and I have
Mhm.
both. So
Mhm.
I've been doing it and it's been working. But
That's
that's
good.
why I was
I'm
wondering.
so glad. Yeah, no, it wasn't. Yeah.
Yeah,
You
I'm
want to
not
guess?
aware that there's another one for vaccine injury.
Oh, there's lots. Yeah, there's lots, but sulfur was the remedy I took.
Oh,
I have a
okay.
very strong sulfur constitution. I've actually had a sulfur allergy since I was a little girl. So it's a very deep, deep constitutional layer for me that I'll have to probably keep taking.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's one that I'll need again and again, but it was
So
sulfur.
each time it comes back, that's what you use, or it depends on just what the symptoms are.
No, because because we're like a onion,
Oh,
right?
you're going to go
So
into the mental part too.
yeah, so and like another story recently I can share is maybe see if you can get this remedy. I was really, really weepy, really hormonally weepy,
Oh, I know.
really thirstless, I'm sorry, thirstless, and really aggravated from eating fats. Like I would get a lot of indigestion from eating fats, and I had very changeable symptoms and wandering pains. And the remedy was super clear, and that was a remedy that I've taken.
Pulsatilla?
Yeah, yeah. Pulsatilla is very strong in my family. My son has needed it for chronic ear infections for a year, and it comes back frequently a lot. So yeah, sometimes we need to move from remedies, but sometimes it's good to stick with a remedy for a long time. And what's great about what Pulsatilla did is it helped me get strong enough to get a flu, which this is like a whole nother topic, is that acutes are the healing, the fevers are the healing. Like the way we heal is actually through getting acute illness. Like I think a healthy body should get 1 to 2 pretty strong acutes every year to help clean up the junk, right? That's why we don't want to suppress those symptoms. We want to express, we want to let the mucus come out, we want to let the diarrhea flow, we want to let the fever express, because the fever is the healing. And in fact, my sickest patients, myself included, think about when I was 5 years old, I could not get fever, right?
Yeah.
The sickest of sickest have trouble listening fever. And that
Yeah.
is why that things continue to build up in their body. And then if you talk about it from a mitochondria standpoint, this is building a lot of infrared in the body. The body's building its own internal heat. The body's building its own exclusion zone water when it gets a fever. So the fever is the ultimate way that we heal. And I had a fever with my last acute, so that was really, really good for me because it means that I'm heading in the right direction. If you can bring back a fever in a person, as a homeopath, you're doing the right thing, but getting them healthier. Think about kids who are more strong and more vital. They can get fevers typically. Not me,
Yeah.
but most of the time they can. And that was the other thing that happened when I started giving my children homeopathy. My oldest literally had like perfect attendance. He never missed school. All of a sudden, I give him bloody noses and anxiety and thirsty. I gave him phosphorus, of course, right? And I gave him a 1M, and it all of a sudden here he's having all these acutes, right? I'm dealing with all these acutes, but that is actually how the body heals. I don't know if you've read George Vitolkas's Levels of Health yet. That is a great book, Christine. This one right here. And he talks about when they're at level 4 in the stage of health. Anything by George Vitsukas is great. Also, this one is amazing. The Science of Homeopathy. If anytime someone's at level 4 of health is when they're trying to like teeter totter between chronic disease and going back down on the like getting better, right? So the way that the body avoids chronic disease at level 4 is they get a lot of acutes. And if they can get those acutes treated in the right way and not be suppressed, they're going to go back down and they're going to be in better level of health. But if they suppress them, then they go into the chronic disease, right? So yeah, it's just so interesting. Like we think acutes are bad. We think, getting sick is bad, but the
I
symptoms
want
are
to
how
make
the body heals,
I want to make a point that I think is so, I think is needed. I think this is a good point to make from what your girls are saying, is that the allopathic way, that the systematic way that we approach things is definitely treating a symptom, right?
Yes.
But what we're doing when you say the word suppress, I wanted the listeners to understand is like medicine turns off pathways. It shuts things down. So that's what down regulation means. That's what suppressed means. So when you're taking, right, a medicine, and I'm not saying you don't need it, sometimes you do, but in most general chronic overuse, abusive ways of medicine, you're turning off it's an enzyme. You're usually shutting it off. So now what you've done is the body can't do it. So the medicine's doing it for you. What you're talking about and what we talk about in alternative medicine and with homeopath, although you girls are talking about symptoms, you're not turning that off, right?
No, you use the symptom as your guide.
Right. And that's what I wanted the listeners to understand. We're both talking symptoms, but one is like literally like shutting it off and then shutting down actual pathways. And one great one that everybody will get is an antacid or a PPI. You literally shut the stomach cell's ability to produce acid off, and you create so much drama, so many health problems down the road.
I took it for 10 years,
It's
twice a day.
crazy.
Pepsid.
And then for
It's not
some
meant to
people,
be
they can never
taken
get it back.
long-term.
It's like,
Yeah.
it's right.
It's
not meant to be taken long term, but I love what you said, how it's like just down regulating, but you're stopping the symptoms and you're stopping the healing. But with homeopathy, what typically happens, especially in chronic cases, is we have an aggravation of symptoms because the vital force is leveling up. It's making the body stronger. So the body does the heavy lifting. Your body does the work.
It's not the remedy.
Right.
It's not the remedy. The remedy is just a catalyst. Your
Right.
body. This is why people who are weaker, it takes longer because the body has to keep getting stronger and then keep getting a little stronger and then keep getting a little stronger because homeopathy doesn't cure you. You cure you, right? It's the homeopathy is only the stimulus that supports it, right?
So wild.
I love.
And there's pictures too. Did you see of each remedy in the water frozen and the
yes. Oh my goodness. I love that. That's
and I've seen like with tears and stuff, they show like before homeopathy, I've seen memory of water and like things like emotions and how they can affect it. But then to see the pictures of the actual different remedies and how they act in the water and the different patterns.
That's just proving the fact that homeopathy is actually there. The substance is actually there. That's the proof in the pudding right there. And I'm so glad that this water, because water has this amazing ability to hold energy, frequency, and vibration. The words that you say to the water that you drink actually makes an impact on your cellular health and the water, like the structure of that water. But actually you are 99.9 water by molecular structure. So that's actually how homeopathy works. It works on the exclusion zone water. So it's picking up that energy and frequency and information. And then it's because we have this exclusion zone water, which is basically our quantum communication superhighway, meaning like it connects everything to everything in your body. And it's how our body transfers information. It's like, think of the fascia system.
Yeah.
Your fascia system is lined with tons of exclusion zone water. So we pick up on all the energy and information. Your cells actually pick up, like you're literally a walking antenna. You're picking up on the negative thoughts that you say. You're picking up on the positive thoughts that you say. Like all this information is imprinted on your body. So that's how homeopathy also works, is it resonates that, say, information about arsenic amalgam, that frequency, and it's moving it throughout the entire body. And then the other thing that's really incredible about homeopathy that we didn't really mention is it acts for months to years, if not interrupted. And it can be curative for months to years on a person. It's not like you take the remedy and you have to keep taking it. Example, my middle son, I use this example all the time because it's such a great example. He had debilitating panic attacks. Like he wouldn't go to school. His heart was racing. He desired a lot of company. He was in such a panic state. He would cry. I couldn't leave his side. I mean, it was really, really awful. And he's super neat as well. Are you getting the remedy yet? And he took one dose of a 1M of the remedy that he needed, the indicated remedy, and he's never had a panic attack again because I didn't interrupt that healing process. It just completely cured it. And they were happening every month, a couple times a month. It was incredible. And the only aggravations he had was not panic attacks. It was a little bit of fatigue, body resting, body healing, and actually alopecia, just like I had. And I know I'm healing that genetic predisposition in him because that is how it expressed. And he's so not anxious at all anymore. He's not super fastidious anymore. He's so confident because this remedy also has low confidence. But the alopecia that he got as the aggravation was how the body like let it out. I feel like it's how the body expressed. that physical symptom, like coming out of the brain, because that's a neuroinflammation. It needed to express through that. And it was one spot, and it lasted about a month. And he was such a champ about it. He just brushed his hair a different way. And he's so well balanced. His nervous system was completely well balanced. And you know what, Christine, I'll tell you one other thing. Before he took that remedy, I was a little bit nervous about him having mast cell, because he was sitting in the RV one time, which is like literally living in a microwave, and EMFs will absolutely make, non-native EMFs will absolutely make mast cell activation syndrome activated and worse. And he had bladder pain, and I was like, he cannot have this. Like, I cannot let him have this. And I wound up taking this remedy for panic attacks, but he's never complained about that symptom either again since then either. His symptom has completely been balanced. And now, not often do I see that one person needs just one remedy to bring their whole constitution back into balance. That's not typical. You might see that in children because they are stronger. They have less suppressive therapies. They have stronger mitochondria, right? You can see that in children. I don't see that in adults as much, but it does happen too. Like, there's the whole one remedy that's just completely rebalanced. He hasn't needed another remedy since. In fact, he had an ingrown toenail, and I know he needs silica for it, but I'm like, I don't want to give it to him, because I'm just like, he's so good otherwise. I'm like, just let it be, you know?
Is that what you mean about it, as long as it's not interrupted? Like, you would interrupt it by giving him another remedy? Because
Yes,
we have
because
two different
remedies
schools of thought. That's why it's
remedies antidote each other. It's just the nature. They can't, both frequencies can't exist at the same time. They antidote each other. So like, that's the same thing with my husband with the bryonia, right? I wanted to not give him the roost tox this time, because I wanted to see if the bryonia would do it all on its own. Because then I know which remedy he needs every time this comes back, this situation. So I waited this time, and it healed it. But if I would have interrupted Brendan, my middle son with the anxiety, took arsenic mom, if I would have interrupted that healing process, the panic attacks could come back. And I've seen that happen in clients and myself, because sometimes you have to interrupt it. They get a strong acute. Actually, interestingly enough, so I remember I was telling you how I took pulsatilla, and I was being more aggravated by fat and the weepy and the desiring consolation, and then I had to take calcar because I had a flu, and that was the right remedy. I mean, I've never seen a remedy act so quickly in my body. I literally, my whole face was so congested. I had such bad chills. I had such bad aches. The dry dose didn't help, but the water dose, within minutes, all the congestion left my face, the aches went away, the chills went away, and I was like, "What? That was amazing." But the pulsatilla symptoms are starting to come back, because the pulsatilla layer wasn't healed.
wow.
But I had to interrupt it with the calcarb because I needed that remedy at that time. It doesn't mean it was wrong. It's just that remedy, that layer has not been completely dealt with, and I need to continue to address that layer. I took LM1, I'll probably move to LM2, right? So that's what I mean. And pulsatilla is also a really great remedy for interstitial cystitis as well. So, yes, very good remedy for the bladder.
I use it all the time for my dog, because he gets ear infections, and
very good remedy for the ear. Very good remedy for the ear. In fact, another story, I know we've been on for a long time, but I could talk forever.
Yeah.
Another story. Another story.
We have to wrap it up.
Another story to tell of my son is, as I was healing behavioral issues with my youngest son, what came back was ear infections, which is exactly what I've suppressed in the past, right? So whatever the direction of the cure is, what you've suppressed in the past is what's probably going to reoccur. That's Herring's law of cure. If you haven't read Constant Harrington's work, read that. That's interesting work to read. So he got this gnarly ear infection. It was almost a year ago, and it was intense. And I knew the remedy was pulsatilla, and I tried it in a 30. I tried it in a 200. I tried it in an LM. I tried it in a 1M, and it just was aggravating it. He's a very sensitive boy. He has a phosphorus layer also. And I was like, I guess can't get this right. I can't get it right. And then I was trying other remedies and all these other remedies. And it took me like a week of going at it. And I had the right remedy originally, which was pulsatilla, but he just needed it in a more gentle dose, which was an LM. So the potency is also really important to get right, not just the remedy, because those higher doses are just too aggravating for his system. He cannot handle it. And LMs work more on like they're they're the most dilute. They're diluted 1 times 15,000. So they're very, very dilute. So they work more on these deeper chronic issues, I find a little bit, and they're more gentle, I find also. So I really am a big lover of LM potencies. So anyway,
That's
that's
interesting.
it's a really, it's
Well,
really,
because I'm learning different things from different people, and I have a classical homeopath in my study group,
Mhm.
and she's kind of teaching me a little bit of classical because we're learning practical homeopathy,
Yeah.
and she had said that the 200 potency is what kind of like turns things down, kind of like a suppression, but like just like turns it down. But then the 6 actually does more to like support the organs
I haven't
and
heard that before.
also acts directly on like the tissue.
There's so
So
many ins and outs of homeopathy, and like
it's
it's like that's in itself, like so many people do it differently, right? I
yeah,
don't actually use 6x. I only
no,
use
never.
12C and above in my practice. Yep. Unless I take a cell salt. I only use 12x and above, 12C and above because I want to work on the energetic level, because 12, anything below a 12 is going to actually have some of the crude form of the substance in it. So
Yeah.
12C and above is only on the energetic realm. I see like 30Cs as more physical, or 12C is more physical, right? And then the higher the potency goes, like 200, 1M, 10M, we're working more on the mental emotional. We're working more like ancestral stuff. We're working more on like miasmatic things. And like LMs are even more um, into that realm. They're working more on like the ancestral realm. Like you're really working
That's
on
right.
that. That's
I
how
gotta
I
write
view
that
it.
down. Okay.
But that's
I'm
that's
thinking
it
about that.
doesn't mean that I'm 100% right. That's just what the learning that I've experienced, the learning and what I've
It's hard.
experienced, you
Yeah.
know? So
I get
it's
confused sometimes because sometimes I'm in like Facebook groups with classical and they'll say something and I'm like, wait a minute. Like I start to like get confused. So I'm
it's
not sure how to handle that yet.
and I
'Cause
don't really think that there's anything wrong with using
no, I think there's
homeopathy.
different ways to do it. I
Yeah,
mean,
they're all
and she
right.
says it all the time. Yes. She's like, there's
Yeah.
different ways to skin a cat, it's
Yeah,
just,
they're all
yeah.
right. There is no wrong.
Yeah.
The only thing that's wrong about homeopathy is when you don't have the right remedy, and it's just not gonna, when you don't have the right
Yeah.
remedy, it just doesn't resonate and it just doesn't do anything, That's the only thing that can happen. That's
I do like those Helios kits though, because that's like a good, like, it covers a lot,
I actually have never used Helios, but I know a lot of people do. It's so funny.
Really?
Everybody does things differently. Yeah, I strictly
Oh,
use
I just like it because it's one pellet dose. Like instead of taking the 5, you only need the 1.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, they get
Yeah.
me through. It's
Yeah,
this
it's so
actually. I'll show
interesting.
you.
I use Hanuman Labs, and it's very interesting too, is that it's like for me, I like it's not about how many pellets you take.
I know, I've heard that too.
It's about the frequency of how often you take a remedy. That's where that is. So there's so many nuances when you see a homeopath. It's getting the right remedy, it's getting the right potency, and then it's getting the right frequency to take that. And then knowing how to gauge that for your client. So when they're getting like, so if I use an LM1, if I'm giving it every night, right? And if I see them getting aggravated, well, then we're going to pull back, right? I've
Yeah.
just done this with a client. Okay, now we're going to give it every third night. We're going to take it 3 times a week. And then if I see them getting aggravated again, I'm going to pull back and say you're going to take it once a week. Or we're going to pull back and we're going to pause it for a few weeks. And then if those
Okay.
symptoms return, we're going to go to LM2. Like there's so many nuances with it. Like it's
Yeah.
like it's a
Fascinating.
lifelong study. Like if you decide to be a homeopath, just be prepared, because I study homeopathy. There's over what 2 to 3,000 remedies, and there are new remedies that are coming out that I'm learning that are just really incredible, and I'm so interested in. Right, so
Yeah.
it's an art and a science, and I love it, and I could study it every day. But it's a lot to know. And then I studied the circadian biology and the quantum
Yeah,
biology
that's
all the
it. It
time
can't
too,
do
and it's
both at
like
once.
yeah, but they're so interconnected, these
Yes.
two things, actually. And I think they marry really, really well, is what I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
For sure.
I hate to be the
I
messenger,
know.
but
This is
we
why
went way over our time. But
this
this has
is
been
why to stop
fantastic.
talking.
You guys all
I
talking
know.
numbers and dosages. I was like, okay. But again, you can start using homeopathy at home. Like you said, you could have a kit, you could look up symptoms, and then if you need more help, we can
Well,
look.
I definitely recommend like the beginner classes and stuff.
Yeah.
Just to get
I also
an
have
idea.
a free homeopathic guide if you guys want to
Good.
put that in the show link. So
Yeah.
people
Okay,
can
yeah, we'll do that.
learn how to just use like regular remedies, like really easy, you know,
And give
that's
your website too for your homeopathy end of it. It's
right.
Yeah,
Like,
let's wrap it up. Tell them where they could
yeah.
contact you, get the guide. We'll put the links below, but just tell a little bit about that part.
brightlightwellnesscoach.com is my website. You can book in a session there. And you can catch me on Instagram, which is bright_light_wellness, or Healing Families with Homeopathy. I have 2 Instagram accounts. And then I also have my podcast, the Quantum Health Connection podcast. I talk a lot about quantum healing and I talk a lot about homeopathy on there as well. I'm on my own YouTube channel, which is Bright Light Wellness. So you can catch me in all different kinds of places. And I'm open to connecting and, you know, supporting people in all the ways. So, yeah.
Yay,
Yes, thank
perfect.
you so much. I'm
Thank you
so
so
glad
much.
to have you. And we're going to have you back for the exclusion zone water. I want to know about that blue water bottle with the
Blue
silver
bottle.
thing with the swirling.
I want to know about that. I have lots of questions.
Yes, yes. Oh, good. I'm so
Awesome.
glad you came. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it. I love the
this is
conversation. Thank you, Larry.
Just so much.
I love what you're doing. I love it. I love that you started.
Oh, thank
Good
you.
for you guys. I'm proud of
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah.
I'm just glad I found you because I don't know where I'd be.
Oh,
I mean, I think I'd still be doing homeopathy, but I don't know that I'd be sitting outside with my bare feet and, you know, doing all that still. So.
Yeah. Yes, I'm
Thank
so
you.
happy for you.
Okay.
Thank
We'll
you.
have you back.
All right.
you.
Bye,
Okay.
everyone.
Have a good day, guys. Bye.